Yeah.
All right. So, Kelly, thank you very much for joining us on Under the Helmet, and thank you for being my second female guest. I'm trying to get more female guests here on the on the program, the podcast, because I think the representation is really important.
Of course.
So let's start off by you telling us who you are, what your Instagram handle is, and how you got into riding motorcycles.
Sure. My name is Kelly. My Instagram handle is R3Latina. And essentially, I decided to get into motorbikes from two main reasons. One being my dad being a motorhead. He loves cars, bikes, and I was always a part of like the car and bike community through him. And the fact that he dragged me along even as a little kid to all of these different events, and I just grew to love it really quickly. And then just sort of following his path with motorbikes and everything, hopping on the back, absolutely loving the feeling. And so that's the main reason, but the secondary reason is also, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Tron. They're coming out with the secondary one soon. I think it's September, I believe, September, October.
It's actually the third one, the third installment, because
the original.
At the risk of showing my age, I remember the original.
There is the original.
Yeah.
Well, technically the second one that they...
The second in the modern era.
Yeah, sure, yes. And that movie like inspired me. I loved the bike. I really wanted to replicate the look of that bike, and that's why I have LEDs on my bike and everything.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
You've got a very distinctive look on the motorcycle.
I do, yeah.
And so people can see you coming from a little while away.
Yes, that little glow stick just.
That's right. But I do get the Tron vibe. That's really cool.
Yeah.
There's an older movie, Black Rain, with Michael Douglas.
Oh yeah.
Late 80s, really bad script when you think about it, but he rides a souped up Harley Davidson, and he's riding a Suzuki Gixxer in the start of the movie, and I watched that movie as a kid, and that movie got me into motorcycles when I was young, but I had family as well that you could kind of fuel that passion for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us about Dad's bike. What kind of bikes was Dad riding?
So he had a Triumph Bonneville.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the one that he had while I was a kid. And then when I was of age to have a car, he sold that to buy me my little Hyundai i20. So I appreciate him so much and the sacrifice that he made of like, big sacrifice. And now I have a car thanks to him. But he'd always take me on the back of the bike despite my mum hating the idea because, you know, she's very kind of concerned for our well-being, of course. But he's such a safe rider, and he's been riding since he was like 12, you know, back in England when he lived there. So yeah, he's a very safe rider, and I just fell in love with the feeling of being on the back of the bike and the fact that, you know, you can weave in and out of traffic. It's so freeing. That's the main thing, is that I noticed it was freeing, and I wasn't even holding the handlebars, you know. So even being on the back was such a fantastic experience. I was like, I know that I definitely want to pursue this and to experience it for myself on my own at a later point in my life. And as soon as I could, and I could financially support it, I was like, yes, bike.
Amazing. So you were hooked from a very early age.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So my path was already carved for me way before.
That's incredible. I've got a lot of appreciation for that, because I came to the party quite late myself. Sure. I had an appreciation for bikes, love motorcycles, but I didn't realise my own dream until I was in my earlier 40s. Sure. I know what you're saying. You don't look 40, Steve. No, that's...
Don't look a day over 21.
Oh, thank you. I'll tell you about my moisturising routine.
Yeah, absolutely. The anti-aging routine's doing you wonders.
Oh, thank you so... You got it on camera. Thank you so much. Blushing now. Okay. So, how old were you? Was it more of a case, get your car license first and then get into the motorcycle license?
Exactly. I just wanted to be familiar with the road rules, everything like that, before I was like, oh, let's hop on 2 wheels, no doors, no roof, nothing. So I definitely wanted to have those basic structures before I moved on to something a little bit more complex, and knowing how to drive a manual was going to help me and be sort of supporting me in my learning journey of riding a motorbike as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us about your first few lessons.
Sure.
Did you learn here in Perth?
I did.
Okay. And who was your instructor?
So his name's Wayne. I can't remember the company again, but his name's Wayne. He's a fantastic teacher. He was so lovely. Very kind of made it feel like it was more on friendly terms. So I didn't feel pressure to kind of perform or anything like that. He was lovely, and luckily where the classes were held were also very local to me, so it was just 5 minutes down the road.
Excellent.
And there were the classes, so I was familiar with the area that we were generally riding in as well. which helped with that kind of gaining confidence quickly.
Very good. Shout out to Wayne. Thank you for your hard work, Wayne. Wherever you are, whoever you work for.
Absolute legend. Yeah. He sent me a message today, actually, because I work at Sephora. And he sent me a message just saying, hey, are you in at Karen at working today? And I was like, unfortunately not. But I'm still in contact with him until today.
I was in Karen up today. My son had a birthday party, but that's
besides the point.
Yeah. Okay, so what bike were you learning on?
So I was learning on just like a 125.
Yeah.
And then I bought my R3 to learn in my own time.
Yeah.
And so I would just take it, there's a big car park across from my house. And I would just take it over, kind of roll it over or walk it on the pathway. And then just go and practice in my spare time. So I'd spend quite literally 3 hours every evening just doing laps in the parking lot. Yeah. You know, I look crazy, you know, just doing laps and laps and laps. And some people would come over and be quite interested, like, hey, what are you doing? You know, why are you just doing laps? And I'm learning, you know.
We're trying to teach ourselves, and we're doing it in a very responsible and safe environment
exactly.
as well.
I didn't want to harm
Technically speaking, you can't do it, you shouldn't do it, but...
I know, I wouldn't encourage it, but I never had a single problem, and that was because I kept quiet. I didn't do anything like burnouts, trying to do wheelies, nothing. I was very much just doing practices of my U-turns, things like that, things that I knew that I would need to definitely work on before I did my tests.
Yeah, very good. And from starting to learn to getting your license, did you nail your test on the first go?
So yes, I did.
Well done.
Yeah.
Awesome work.
I did it at the Mirrabooka DOT. Yeah, so that was meant to be quite a tricky one. Not for motorbikes, but I think for cars.
It's a tricky intersection. They've got a lot of tricky spots.
They've got a lot of tricky, but luckily that's kind of an area that I'm familiar with. So I was like, I was fairly confident.
Oh, well done, well done, because that doesn't happen often. I got it on my third go, but I'm not counting the first one because I was really nervy. But second was a bit of maybe I was hard done by the assessor, but it's all a learning experience.
It's very much specific to like the context of that day, of who you have as an assessor, where it is, the traffic, even the other drivers around you. You know, you could have a lucky, you know, straight go through, no problem, or you could have the complete opposite and have problems and maybe hit some buses. The time of day matters a lot as well. When I did mine was closer to New Year's.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people were traveling at that time. So the roads were pretty empty. Yeah, which was quite lucky.
That's very fortunate, yeah. I'm a high school teacher by profession, so I did my test in school holidays.
Oh, yeah?
So I knew that the area I was doing my testing in Butler, there were a lot of schools around.
Yeah.
So there wasn't going to be a school kids or school buses to worry about when doing my test.
Good, yeah.
So, but I didn't want to get complacent, you know, and let that play in my mind. I had to treat it like a normal road. So for everyone learning out there, when they're booking their test, when they're thinking about their venue, what advice would you give to them?
I would say, go with an area that you're comfortable in, I'd say, or either an area that perhaps you've done quite a bit with your instructor, or an area that you know, or you can even scope out beforehand, even if you just go there in your car before you go for your test. Do a few laps, make sure you're familiar with the intersections, maybe areas that you might find tricky, and obviously doing your head checks, familiarize yourself with those areas, just so you don't make any unwanted mistakes that might cost you passing or not, and it could have been just easily mitigated. So I'd say definitely do that, but for me personally, I definitely benefited from doing it in an area where I was familiar.
Yeah, very good. Was it a clean sheet?
No, I believe I had one. It was like either a missed head check, and then I can't remember what the other thing was like, but it was like 2 deductions somewhere,
I remember the words of my assessor when I did my test. He said he's going to be looking for the head checks. And he told me specifically before we started riding that if I don't see your head moving, I'm going to assume you're not doing it.
You have to
really exaggerate. Exactly, like put your head in the swivel and crick your neck. But what I noticed afterwards, after I did my lessons and got my test, I was doing head checks when I was driving the car.
Yes, I've done that as well.
So do you find that being a motorcycle rider has made you a better driver?
Okay, this is controversial.
Okay.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in the sense of I'm way more observant of what the driver in front of me is going to do, or whatever vehicle might be in front of me. And also doing head checks and things like that, 100%. I'm way more cautious in that sense. And I'm also more cautious of other motorcycle riders because I'm aware of them far more. So I'll move over if maybe they're lane splitting to give them extra clearance, or, you know, give them the chance to overtake me, whatever. You know, I'm way more patient with them because I am on the roads and I respect them. But also sometimes, because I ride primarily and my car is just secondary transport for me now, I'm also in the mindset of like, oh, I can lane split or I can overtake, and then I have to remind myself, no, I'm in a vehicle much larger. So there's certain occasions, like it happened a few days ago, 3 days ago more or less, I went to go and like, I think I was trying to kind of squeeze around a car that was turning right, and so I was like, oh, I can make it, and I was like, wait, no, I can't, my width is completely different, and so I had to stop. But I was like, wow, my brain is definitely in that motorcycle mode, and I had to like, recalibrate it, like, well, okay, I'm in the car, not a motorbike.
You raise a good point though. I find it's a lot easier to be complacent when you're in a car compared to when you're on two wheels.
Yes,
Do you find that as well?
No, I agree, yes, yeah, absolutely. And you don't necessarily pay as much attention because you're not at that level of a risk where, you know, one fall could absolutely damage your bike or one fall could take your life, you know? So I think you definitely are way more relaxed, like sipping your coffee, riding, driving with one hand on the wheel, that kind of sort of thing. Yeah, you can be, but while on the bike, you can't afford that sort of behavior.
I've seen drivers, you see so much on two wheels. I've seen drivers on the freeway, breakfast burrito one hand, pop in the other.
Steering like this or with the knees. I've seen someone steer with their knees, believe it or not.
It's insane, and I don't want to be too judgy because let there be light. To each their own, like drive your own drive, ride your own ride, but you are dealing with the lives of people around you.
Absolutely.
And one false move, just a swerve to the right, it could end it all.
There was one fantastic occasion, I'll never forget it. I was driving, and this was maybe 4 years ago. And I was driving along, and there was someone driving quite erratically, and I was like, So, you know, as you do, you go to check, you know, in their window. And I looked at him, he had a full newspaper open while driving, newspaper completely open across his dash. And I was like, how, what do you mean? What do you mean? I looked at him and I like honked, and I was like, he was like, looking at me like I'm the stupid one. I was like, put it away. Why? Why can't you wait until your destination?
It boggles the mind.
I honestly, unfathomable just how you would behave that way in your car. I don't know. I get like people who are like texting, although it's terrible, but I understand, okay, one hand, this, that, and the mentality behind it. But a newspaper, that's
a pretty
so
involved
odd.
activity. Yeah.
It's so odd. It's so strange. I don't know. I laughed my entire way home.
I don't get me wrong. I like my Sudoku, but
I'm not sitting there doing the crossword, right?
Goodness me.
I think so.
Speaking of being a rider and being on the road, bad habits. What's the absolute worst you've seen on the road as a rider?
Oh, there's so much, but I can't be hypocritical because I'm sure I have plenty of bad habits of my own. But I'd say in group rides in particular, you definitely have to be more aware of other people's riding styles. And I think that's why I prefer to ride in smaller groups. Although I enjoy group rides 100%, smaller groups, you can get to know each other's riding styles, the habits of how they ride, whether they speed during certain times and areas and how they speed. So you can certainly like get to know the other riders around you, but if you're in a big group of strangers, people you've only just met, you don't know their habits, you don't know their bad habits. And so I think it's hard to identify the signals when they're going to, like, let's say, cross over and they don't signal. That's why I'm always aware of like making sure that the rider behind me knows what I'm going to do next.
Yes.
And I think obviously we can't do that all the time. Maybe there's erratic things that happen around us, but most of the time I'm always like putting a leg out, an arm out, signal. I'm changing my road positioning from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or whatever. And I think a lot of people in group rides are just think that they can ride how they usually do. You can't in a group ride. And that's probably the worst habit that I've seen out on the roads, and ones that repeatedly have been fed back to me, you know, feedback that there's, nearly been accidents happened. And that's sad to hear because I think as riders, we need to look out for each other.
Absolutely.
So that's probably the worst habit that I've seen from other riders.
So your preference is riding with the group?
Smaller groups.
Do you have a smaller group that you regularly ride with?
I do. I have a couple. There's one group of just like kind of female riders that I ride with, and they're really lovely. I don't know if you know, like Zara. Zara is her tag. And then there's another group. There's another group as well that I ride with, and it's like Charlie, Ashton. There's a few other boys as well. Connor, they're really lovely people as well. They're kind of my age, a bit younger, so they're also just getting into it, which is nice because we all feel like on the same level and no one feels kind of out of place, which is really nice. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Now, I'm glad that you mentioned the female riders, because we know that motorcycle riding is predominantly a male pastime.
Yeah.
Did you have any trepidation or apprehensions about that, being a younger female rider getting into motorcycles?
Yes. Yeah, I definitely had a little bit of concern, not because I thought that anyone was going to be, say, negative towards me riding or anything like that. I thought quite the opposite. Like, I think everyone's very supportive, especially female riders. But I definitely had hesitations towards making friends and then misinterpretations within, you know, obviously being a female. I think if you show too much of a friendly sort of interest in someone, it can be misinterpreted. So those were sort of my concerns, in particular because at the time I was in a relationship. So those things were definitely something that I had to consider, and how I was going to approach making friends and connections, because I still want to, but under the boundaries that I sort of had already
I think that
had in place.
It's really unfortunate, but you do raise a good point. Just for a life lesson in general, that if a younger female happens to show a bit of friendliness, it can be misconstrued as interest.
Yeah.
And look, I've heard some shocking stories. I won't bore you with those details, but I don't know if it's the same across other motorcycle communities in the country, or just exclusive to Perth. I like to think that maybe it's not uncommon to Perth, but if you're a young female rider, then there's an understanding, not a good understanding, that you're doing it just to get attention.
Yeah, it's definitely not the case. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the last thing, and I think that's why I was very hesitant when I first started to wear certain things, and I was like full leather, look like a man. Like, I wanted to completely look not recognizable as a female.
Androgynous. So I've heard other female riders say the same thing.
Yeah, and I just wanted to look very much unrecognizable, because I didn't want people to think, oh, look at her, she's trying to look feminine, or trying to gain followers, or trying to show herself, her figure in a certain way. But I slowly just lost that kind of care towards that situation. I was like, you know what? People are going to either judge me one way or another regardless. I might as well wear what I want, ride with how I want, you know. And there's times where I don't ride with gear, which slap on the hand for me, but it's still my choice, you know. It's my life, my hands. But I try to wear as much gear as I possibly can. It's just days where it's incredibly hot and I have to ride somewhere, and I'm like, oh, I can't. Either I feel like I'm going to pass out on the bike, or, you know, what's safer of the two evils, you know, which one to pick. But yeah, I definitely think that my sort of style and the way that I put myself out there changed over time as I lost care for how I was spoken about in the community. I was like, you know what? Either way, people are going to talk, so I might as well just do me.
Absolutely. You're quite right. People are going to talk, and you don't strike me as a lady who has a lot of ego. So
no, that's the last thing I have, or even
which is good, because there is a lot of ego in the motorcycle community globally, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you're on two wheels. I mean, the fact that you're on two wheels, it's freaking cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, and I find that's really one of the pluses of the motorcycle community.
Absolutely.
If you're on two wheels, you're part of the crew.
Yes. You're already part of the family.
Exactly. I like that, part of the family. Yeah. So what do you think it is about the community in general where there seems to be a standoffish kind of attitude towards female riders?
I think that it's because of, as you said, like misconceptions and stigma around, like, perhaps why female riders are in the community. And I've seen that even through my friend who does a lot of dancing videos and things like that with the bike. And people don't like it. It's either they love it or they really hate it. Yeah. And I've done some videos with her the same way. And again, I think that you get put in a box of like, oh, like what you mentioned earlier, you're just doing it for attention. You know, you're sexualizing yourself in a way, or whatever it might be. And I completely disagree. I think she's just having fun. I'm having fun when I've done those videos. We have a laugh about it. We have the fantastic behind the scenes where we're absolutely laughing our heads off. And that's the reason why we post it, because it's just genuine fun and just sharing love, you know. And she's got a beautiful, large, flourishing page through that. And as soon as I let go of the idea of, oh, I need to look a certain way for people to accept me in the community, like look cool or very much like just relaxed and not put in any effort to like, or make anything creative, because what if that's considered like cringe in the community and things like that. As soon as I let go of that, then my page started growing as well. So I think people just need to accept the fact that female riders are not actually looking for attention all the time. Sure, there are people that will be like that, 100%, the same way that there's male riders that are just looking for attention. So you can't just stereotype based off of what you think is happening because of the content that someone's posting, or perhaps the things they're wearing, or the way they may interact with people in the community. I think it's a little bit silly for people to make those rash stereotypes.
I like, that's a beautiful segue to my next question, stereotyping. There is an assumption that there is a disparity between the skill level between male and female riders. I know you're going to say I know you're going to say that's a load of bullshit. I think it's a load of bullshit because I know a lot of female riders that would smoke the majority of male riders that I know. What do you have to say about that?
So that's a good question. I really love it. I think that there are a lot of female riders that, of course, because of even myself, I can accept that I have limitations based off of my physique, that I'm small, I'm petite. There's certain things that I don't have the strength for, or that there's going to be certain bikes I will never be able to ride. And that's just a fact. And I think, of course, anyone can ride any bike if given the right, maybe you lower it, maybe this, that, whatever. But I understand that I have limitations, and I'm not pretending to be better than anyone or equal to anyone who's riding, say, a 1000 or a Hayabusa or something. No. But I think women can still have the same skill set on a smaller bike, or if not better skills or like habits, than people on larger bikes or men in general. Like that, I think it's completely based off of case by case.
Absolutely.
Rather than, oh, women suck at riding, they're only in it just for attention, and then men, they know how to ride, they're not doing it for attention, this, that. No, it doesn't work that way. I've met some fantastic riders. I'm not putting myself in the category. There's so much more that I need to learn, and so much that I acknowledge I need to work on, especially with, like, say, slow maneuvers. I have one friend who's only starting off recently, and his name's Scotty, and he can absolutely do fantastic slow maneuvers, do figures of eights in like insane little small diameter circles, and I'm just like, whoa, that's incredible. Like, he's so much more skilled in those slow maneuvers than most riders would be able to. Like, I know some riders that can't do a U-turn. So, and that just goes to show.
Yeah, they do it for their test, and that's
of course,
it. Yeah.
And he's riding like a 300, a naked 300, and do you know what? He rides much better. And so you can say that some female riders may not have the same skill set as some male riders. I agree, 100%, but vice versa. Yeah, so I think it depends on, have you done track? How many hours are you actually riding? Someone who's maybe riding once every fortnight versus someone who's riding daily, a female rider might be riding daily, is going to have a more robust skill set than someone who's maybe only riding on occasion. So I think it's all based on context of that particular rider.
Absolutely.
No matter the gender.
And I'd say if you can commute in Perth, not that Perth has the worst driving conditions in the world, if you can commute in the bike in Perth, you're doing all right as a rider.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've had your license now for how long?
I've had my license for a little over a year.
A little over a year. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Fresh like me.
Yes.
Do you have plans to go to your open class?
Yes,
Very
100%.
good.
As soon as I can go for my open class, I'm going for it.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
And what's your dream bike? Your dream open class bike?
This is a tricky question.
Okay.
For me, there's two bikes that I absolutely adore. The R1M, Yamaha R1M. I just have a soft spot from Yamaha's. My bike's a Yamaha R3. Or the S1000 RR.
Nice.
It's a beautiful bike. I was fortunate enough to ride one, and I love the way it rides. It's beautiful.
They are just a phenomenal bit of German engineering.
They are. And
I can see why they're so desirable. And I'm not really one myself. I mean, I ride an Italian. It's not a Ducati or an Aprilia.
Yeah.
It's a Benelli.
Right.
And so I don't like to go with what other people tend to ride, but I can certainly see the appeal of the S1000 RR.
It's a sexy looking bike.
Oh, they are.
You know?
Oh, they are. But then the problem is you got to change your Instagram handle to S1K as well.
I know. S1K Kelly or S1K Latina. Who knows?
That's right. Yeah, there's potential there. Okay,
there is.
Trademark it.
There's actually a meme that goes around where it's like anyone who rides an S1000 fighting the urge to name their page S1K their name. That's completely valid, actually.
It's completely true. Yeah.
Everyone that I know has that.
Every BMW S1000 RR rider out there. Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Okay. So, as soon as you can. So we're talking about at least 1 more year from now?
Correct. So it'll be, give or take, what are we? We're in April now?
We're in April, yeah.
Yeah, insane. So what's that? That'll be another 9 or so months, a little bit under 9 months until I can go for my open.
I'm around the same timeline.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I feel like in many ways the bike chooses you. You might sit on the bike and then you might feel like, oh, you know what, I'm not exactly feeling it.
Yeah.
Could that be potentially heartbreaking if it's not the R1 or the...
Well, I mean, as I said, I've ridden the S1000. So
Okay.
for me, I know that bike
That's
is
good.
like, yeah. The R1 I haven't actually had the opportunity to ride one. I do want to. When I am picking, I'll definitely try both before I decide. But it's a hard pick. It's a hard pick because I love the sound of the R1M, but I like the way the S1000 rides. It's a very comfortable bike. You've got your cruise control. You have all your little gadgets.
All
and
the bits and bobs and the heated grips.
I know, the
and
heated
everything.
grips.
I know.
Oh, and I'm always cold on the bike, so that's going to come in clutch. It's going to be perfect.
We spoke about this before we started hitting a record, but we're pretty lucky here in Perth where we have some pretty mild winters by world standards.
Yes.
I mean, I was whinging last week because we had a 14-degree morning and I was chilly in that. Because, you know, we've had months and months of 22, 23 degree,
weather.
just gorgeous weather. Yeah. Last couple of questions.
Sure.
So, we mentioned the female riding community.
Yes, yeah.
Is there a female rider in the community that you really look up to, that you really aspire to be like or emulate? And feel free to mention them if.
No, absolutely. No, or to be honest with you, no. Because I think that everyone has their faults, everyone has their areas of potential growth. So I don't think to idolize any particular rider in the community, especially when you haven't met them or maybe they're an influencer or whatever, you can't base like all of this sort of admiration off of just their page or how many followers they have and things like that. They could be a terrible rider or a terrible person. So I have no idea. I don't particularly idolize any individual creator or rider. I just try to be myself and be so genuine to what I enjoy and the content that I want to put out there, and the way that I ride is just 100% genuine to
Excellent.
how I want to. So no, not to be honest with you, no.
Okay.
I have lots of people that I see as equals, and that's the only way that I
That's a great answer.
so many mistakes on that bike that I could have had much more worse outcomes. Let's say like I've gone around a corner too fast. I can let off the throttle, and the bike is going to be a lot more forgiving because it is a smaller bike. Versus if I had a bigger bike, I think we would have encountered a bit of a crash there. So I'm very grateful that I started small and that I've paced myself and that I'm taking things just step at a time, one step at a time. And I think that that's the best advice that I could give to any rider. I know that ego, as you mentioned, is a big thing in the community. So it's very easy to want to have a bigger bike or a nicer bike or a brand new one, just so that you can fit in or be accepted by everyone else. But I'd say throw that away. Don't consider that even when you're thinking about what bike to pick or how you want to ride this, that. Just be so true to yourself and your own acknowledgement of your particular skill set, because I think you're the only person who knows what you're capable of, and no one else can tell you what you can or can't ride. If you think that you're able to manage a 600 or a 700 straight off the bat, that's fine, no problem. But I think it's completely fine, and there shouldn't be any negative stigma around starting on a smaller bike as well.
Absolutely.
You do get bullied for it, I won't lie. I've had lots of like comments and things like that, but I just let it brush straight over my head, just like, doesn't matter. Take it with a grain of salt. It is what it is. No one else can tell you how to ride, and you know what? They're not living your life. They're not risking their life. You're your own rider. Ride your own ride. The best line is ride your own ride.
Amen. Ride your own ride.
So just take your time. As a new rider, take your time. Don't rush into group rides. That's another thing. Don't rush into group rides. They're a dangerous place to be. Don't rush into those. Take your time. Ride in smaller groups if you want to ride in a group, and do your own thing. Practice as much as you can. That's about it.
And it pays to have a good instructor.
It does.
Yep.
Good old Wayne.
Wayne.
Yep.
If you're looking for a good instructor, we have a good testimonial here from Kelly.
We do.
Wayne.
For Wayne, yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, Kelly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being
so much.
a guest on Under the Helmet.
No, my pleasure.
And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it.